Ree the Pioneer Woman, and you are going to make my shrimp and pineapple quesadillas. Talk about a lifelong love affair for me. Quesadillas are hands down my favorite food on earth. First thing you need to do is get some veggies prepped. To start with some onion, and I'll just cut off the top and the tail. And I'll just get the outer peel off. Basically, these are cheesy quesadillas with onions and peppers and the surprisingly sweet addition of pineapple, which is going to light your quesadilla fire in a big way. I'm just going to cut the onions into pretty big chunks. These are going to go into a skillet, so you don't need to dice them finely, and you want the quesadillas to have nice big chunks of veggies. Here's a little piece of trivia about quesadillas and me. They happen to be my #1 pregnancy craving with all 4 of my children. Moms, you know those days when you're expecting a baby and there's nothing that sounds good to eat. Well, on those days for me, quesadillas were what I wanted, and I still love them every bit as much as when I was pregnant with my babies. So the onions are prepped, and I'm going to get some red bell peppers prepped. You can use any color of bell pepper you like, and I'm kind of taking the easy road and just kind of shaving off slabs of the peppers. I'm doing red and green, but I really love to do orange and yellow. I really like bell peppers, especially in my quesadillas. Okay, and then once you have the big pieces cut, you can just kind of go to town and cut them into different sized chunks. Again, I love a recipe that doesn't require a fine, neat dice of vegetables. I like to just kind of hack away and wind up with a big pile of veggies. If you want to, you can add mushrooms to this quesadilla. Really, any veggie that you like. You can do chunks of zucchini and summer squash. It kind of depends on what time of year it is and what you have in abundance in your produce drawer. Corn is delicious. If you have some fresh sweet corn, you can shave the kernels off the cob. Anything goes. The only thing that's important about quesadillas is that you have lots of cheese. So I'm going to make sure this skillet is getting hot. You want to use a big skillet so you have plenty of room. And I'm going to add a mixture of butter. Woo, that's a hot skillet. And a little bit of olive oil. And then that basically got hot instantly. So you can put the veggies straight into the pan. Careful not to splash. See, this is why I wear patterned clothes when I cook, because if I splash a little oil on myself, nobody will ever know, and they'll think I'm such a neat cook because I never get food on my clothes, but now you know the truth. Okay, now you want to start cooking the veggies. Basically, you want to cook them over pretty high heat, medium to medium high, because you want the veggies to get some nice color on the edges. A little bit of black won't hurt. Meantime, you want to get a griddle over some heat and get it heated up. I'm using a cast iron griddle, but you can use a non-stick griddle, or if you don't have a griddle, you can do just a big iron skillet or non-stick skillet. Okay, so while the peppers and onions start to cook, I'm going to get some chunks of pineapple. Now, I'm using a fresh pineapple, but you can buy the little containers of pineapple chunks that they sell in grocery stores. Those are really handy. And I really like prepping fresh pineapples. Lad and my boys absolutely love them. And I just cut off the top and the bottom, and then I'll just go down around the edges and shave off that prickly skin, or prickly rind. I'm not sure what you call it with pineapple. And then all of this can go away. And then I kind of line up 2 points and then rotate it and kind of find the points and then just cut through. And then you wind up with these neat little spears. And I think I'm gonna need probably 2. And then what I do is just kind of slice off that middle core that's really tough. Having a sharp knife is always good. And then you have these nice little lines and you can just cut them into chunks. Sometimes I make this quesadilla without the pineapple, but one day I just decided to throw pineapple into the mix and it was so darn good. If I have pineapple in my fridge, I usually include it in this recipe. Okay, the peppers and onions are coming along. So now you grab the pineapple and throw it in. You don't want to add the pineapple first because the onions and peppers take a little bit longer to cook. And you don't want the pineapple to get overly mushy. So the peppers and onions need a little bit of a head start. So easy so far. I'm going to season the veggies with some salt. Give it one more stir. Now these need to cook a little bit longer so they can get some good color. I'm going to crank up the heat, live on the wild side a little bit. Okay, so don't be afraid to just walk away from the skillet and let the veggies and the pineapple really start to get some great color. So I'm going to get the shrimp ready. So I'm using deveined peeled shrimp, which is the easiest way to use shrimp. You don't have to do all the prep work yourself. I'm going to grab a bowl, and then you want to take the shrimp and just scrape it into a bowl. Then you don't have to get your fingers all dirty. The more I can avoid washing my hands a million times during one recipe, the better. Now I've got some Mexican red sauce. You can use enchilada sauce, anything in that category. And I'm going to pour probably about a cup over the shrimp. And then I'll give this a stir. And you want to just let the shrimp sit in the red sauce before you cook it. They're not really marinating. You're just kind of getting them started with a good coat of this sauce. Okay, that's all the prep you need to worry about with the shrimp. So back to the skillet. Let's check on the peppers and the pineapple and the onions. Look at this, they're already starting to get gorgeous color. And it's exactly what I had in mind, which is just little brown and black bits around the edges. To me, that just says flavor. It just says you've spent a little bit more time cooking the veggies, giving them a little bit of care. When those edges start to caramelize, oh, the difference in flavor is amazing. I'm going to turn the heat way down on this skillet because boy, is it hot. You don't need that heat anymore. And then just carefully pour the veggies onto a plate. I was a little ambitious with this plate. It's not very big. I didn't lose too many. That's all right. Shake and get most of those out of there. So now you want to take the shrimp in the sauce, and it goes right into this hot pan. And you know how quickly shrimp cooks. That is not going to take long at all. You just want to get the shrimp into a single layer and let them start to cook on the first side. Now I've got the griddle going, so I'm going to get started on assembling the quesadillas. I've got this nice hot griddle, but not too hot. Now I said cheese is the most important thing about quesadillas. Butter is the second most important thing. You have to trust me on this. You want to put about a tablespoon of butter for each quesadilla you're going to cook. And then I'm using the smallest size of flour tortilla that I could find and just put it right on top of each little smear of butter. And now comes the cheese. You can use whatever cheese you happen to have in your fridge. This is regular Jack cheese. You can use pepper jack, a mix of cheddar and jack. There's a delicious Mexican cheese called Chihuahua that's really beautifully smooth and melty, which is my favorite word. So after you get the cheese on there, you can start adding the pineapples and the peppers, and be generous. You don't want to be conservative about these veggies and pineapples. This is the good stuff right here. I really like to cook quesadillas this way, where you put the bottom tortillas on first and start building everything. You just have to watch and make sure the underside does not burn. Sometimes it's a tricky balance. So back to the shrimp. You just want to check it, make sure it's cooked. They're real tightly curled and opaque. So you just want to put probably 3 shrimp on each quesadilla. And if you want to, you can also chop the shrimp after it's cooked, and you can just add little bits to the quesadilla. I kind of like keeping them in big chunks. Quesadillas are super fun for a party. You can kind of lay out all the fixins and your guests can help you assemble them. I love parties like that. Okay, so we need to put the top tortillas on, and it looks like this cheese is already pretty much melted. I'm gonna cheat real quick. Woo! I'm a cheater. I want it to be really cheesy when we cut into it. Okay. Okay, so the tops go on, and then this requires a spatula for sure. And I'm gonna check the underside. Oh my goodness, so pretty. So you kind of want to hold your hand on the top, make sure it's totally loosened, and then be careful, don't burn yourself on the cheese. Whoop! Oh, lost a shrimp. We'll just pretend that never happened. We'll do the same to the first one. It needs just a few more seconds, but look at that gorgeous golden tortilla. And you will not ever get that if you don't add a lot of butter. And speaking of butter, I like to get a little bit more and just kind of scoot the tortilla over. It's like sweeping the butter under the rug a little bit. But you've got to get that beautiful golden consistency to the other side of the tortilla. All right, I'm gonna flip this one. Not quite as golden as the first, but I'll work on the second side. Look at all of this just cheesy, peppery, shrimpy goodness going on. And then, whoop, there goes the butter. I have had quesadillas before where just like a teeny bit of butter was used or no butter on the tortillas, and it's just a disappointment. What can I say? There's nothing worse than a disappointing quesadilla in my book, so you want to find ways to avoid being disappointed by your quesadillas. There are so many different ways you can go with quesadillas. Using this same pepper and onion mixture, you can do sautéed chicken, you can do sautéed beef, you could even make taco meat with just ground beef and taco seasoning and spoon it on instead of the shrimp. When I said I've never met a quesadilla I didn't like, I truly, truly meant it. I will take anything in my quesadillas, even just plain cheese quesadillas if it's really good cheese. Okay, this first one has had a second chance. I mean, how gorgeous does that look? Okay, now when the cheese starts to look like it's about to spill out everywhere all over the earth, that's when it's time to take the quesadillas off. I'm gonna bring in the help of a knife. A large spatula helps. Woo! If you lose a few pieces, no big deal. Just bring them over and pop them back in. And remind me to bring my huge spatula next time I come and make quesadillas here. I actually have something that I call my quesadilla spatula. It's about that big around. Okay, now I'm gonna get the plate ready for the quesadillas. And of course, you have to have fixins. So I've got pico de gallo and guacamole, sour cream, all the essentials. And then I have found the best way to cut a quesadilla into wedges is to use a pizza cutter. So just kind of go in the center and push really hard. cut through and then do the same in the other direction. Oh, this smells so good. Do the other one. This really is the ultimate party food in my book. Just having a quesadilla party. I would like every one of my future birthday parties to be quesadilla parties. Okie doke. I think I can do this with my fingers. You just want to arrange them on a plate so everyone can see the beautiful red and green peppers. You can overlap them, stack them, dance with them, propose marriage to them. Have I mentioned I love quesadillas? Okay, believe it or not, that is not my plate. I have a little plate for myself. But I'm gonna grab 2 pieces. Woo, nice and piping hot. Ooh, gosh. And then spoon on some pico, which is a must. Pico de gallo is basically a condiment in our house. And some guacamole. Get a new spoon for the sour cream. Okay, all right. This is actually going to be a fork situation for me. If I were by myself, I would go ahead and pick it up and eat it. I'm trying to have manners here. Trying is the operative word. Mmm. Oh, man. Mmm. Buttery golden tortilla. Melty Monterey Jack. Those saucy shrimp. They're amazing. And to top it off, the peppers and onions mixed with that sweet pineapple. Truly one of the best things you'll ever eat. Very family friendly and very, very fun. Thank you so much for making these with me, guys.